Keanu Reeves pulled up to a stunning estate in Beverly Hills, dressed casually in jeans and a simple t-shirt. He wasn't here to impress, just to find a place that felt right. But the realtor waiting for him at the entrance didn't see a world-famous actor or a serious buyer. Instead, she saw someone who, in her eyes, didn't belong. A waste of her time. What happened next, however, would not only make her regret that assumption, but reveal a truth that would change everything. Inside an upscale Beverly Hills real estate office, where only the wealthiest clients were catered to, Keanu sat in the manager's office, his posture relaxed but his mind sharp. He wasn't one for extravagance, but he knew exactly what he wanted. "I need something functional, but with character," he said in his calm, deliberate tone. "A home that connects with nature. Not flashy, just well-crafted." The manager, a seasoned professional, nodded as he jotted down notes. Keanu wasn't like the usual clients who demanded opulence. He wanted quality, not excess. "There were a few properties in mind that might fit," the manager showing for one I think you'll like. Keanu leaned forward slightly. "One request," he added, "don't mention my name to the agent." The manager hesitated, puzzled. "When people know who I am, they act differently," Keanu explained. "I want an honest experience, no special treatment." "Understood, Mr. Reeves. Your identity will stay between us." With that, the visit was scheduled, and Keanu left the office unnoticed. A few days later, Christine, a top realtor, stood in front of a breathtaking modern home, floor-to-ceiling glass, sleek architecture, and a perfectly manicured garden. She had received minimal information about the client, only that he valued privacy. She thought someone paranoid about secrecy. Then a modest car rolled up, a stark contrast to the usual parade of Lamborghinis and Bentleys she was used to. As the door opened, Christine raised an eyebrow. A man stepped out, faded jeans, a plain gray t-shirt, sneakers well past their prime. His hair was slightly disheveled, his demeanor relaxed, unfazed by the luxury around him. Christine forced a polite smile, arms crossed. Can I help you?" she asked, her voice overly sweet but dripping with skepticism. "This property isn't open to the public." The man met her gaze, calm and unbothered. "I have a scheduled visit," he said simply. Christine blinked, then checked her tablet. To her surprise, his appointment was confirmed. "Oh, well then," she said, barely hiding her doubt. "I'm Christine, the listing agent. Before we begin, you should know this home is in the highest tier of luxury, priced accordingly. Are you sure this is what you're looking for?" The man nodded. "The manager recommended it based on my request." Christine's skepticism didn't fade. Interesting," she muttered, leading him toward the entrance. Just loud enough for him to hear, she added, "Some people do love to browse things way out of their budget." Inside, Christine slipped into professional mode, though a trace of arrogance lingered in her voice. She gestured grandly, emphasizing the home's exclusivity. "This entryway is designed for impact," she said, her tone almost condescending. "The kind of space where you expect high-profile guests to be in awe, depending on the type of guest you usually have, of course." She shot him a quick glance, as if doubting he hosted anyone of such caliber. The man simply walked ahead, taking in the details, completely unaffected by her words. Reaching the living room, Christine continued, "The floor-to-ceiling windows are made from the highest-grade tempered glass, a feature that sophisticated buyers truly appreciate." But if she expected him to be overwhelmed, she was in for a surprise, because Keanu Reeves wasn't here to be dazzled. He was here for something real. And soon Christine would realize just how wrong she had been. Keanu moved through the grand living area, his expression calm, his focus sharp, while Christine expected him to be awed by the high-end finishes. His questions threw her off completely. "The floor-to-ceiling glass creates a seamless transition between indoor and outdoor spaces," she declared, expecting admiration. Instead, he nodded and asked, "How effective is the acoustic insulation?" "Glass can be a weak point." Christine hesitated, momentarily caught off guard. "Of course it's effective," she answered quickly, masking her irritation. "This property wasn't exactly designed for people worried about technical details. It's for those who appreciate luxury and design." She led him into the kitchen, determined to shift the focus back to what mattered to her, impressing him with status symbols. She ran her hand across the marble countertop with an exaggerated flourish. "This is Carrara marble, one of the most expensive options available, perfect for hosting dinners and social events. She paused and threw in a subtle test. Do you entertain often? Keanu ran his fingers lightly across the surface. It's beautiful, he admitted, but Carrara marble is quite porous. What kind of treatment was applied to prevent stains? Christine's jaw tightened. This wasn't the kind of question she expected. Clients weren't supposed to ask about practicality. They were supposed to be dazzled. As I said, this is a high-end property, she replied, forcing a smile. All materials have been treated to ensure durability. I'm sure experienced owners won't have any issues. Her passive-aggressive tone didn't seem to faze him. Instead, he simply nodded, continuing his quiet evaluation. As they ascended the staircase, Christine's patience wore thinner with every pause he took to examine details. She discreetly rolled her eyes, convinced that he was out of his depth. At the entrance to the master suite, she regained her dramatic flair, sweeping open the doors. And here we have the master bedroom, she announced grandly. This is what it truly means to live with class. She glanced at him, her smile sharp. Some of my clients love showing this room off to their friends, but I imagine that's not something you do often. Keanu ignored the jab. Walking straight to the windows, he gazed outside, taking in the backyard's lush fruit trees and the infinity pool shimmering in the sunlight. A small smile crossed his lips. This is exactly what I was looking for, he murmured. Christine stared at him in disbelief. How could someone so effortlessly simple be so self-assured? He doesn't realize what he's getting into, she thought. What she didn't realize was that she was standing in front of Keanu Reeves, a man who had deliberately hidden his identity to avoid exactly the kind of fawning she reserved for the ultra-rich. Still determined to maintain control, Christine straightened her posture and pressed forward with the tour, her exaggerated gestures and forced enthusiasm more apparent than ever. I'll walk you through the property in detail, she said, her tone carrying an edge. Although this home is meant for those with truly refined taste, if she was hoping for a reaction, she didn't get one. As they stepped into the main living area, Christine doubled down on her usual tactics, emphasizing luxury at every turn. This space was designed for impact, she said, her voice dripping with pride. A living room that turns any gathering into a magazine-worthy event. Of course, it depends on how you use the space, but I imagine that's not really your style, is it? She cast him a quick glance, expecting some flicker of embarrassment. Instead, Keanu simply ran his hand along the window frame and asked, Are these windows resistant to extreme weather conditions? With so much glass that could be a concern, Christine's expression hardened for a fraction of a second. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to maintain her composure. She said, her tone clipped. The buyers in this market aren't exactly worried about those kinds of things. She smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. People who invest in homes like this tend to prioritize aesthetics over practicality. Keanu gave a small nod, completely unshaken. He replied before calmly returning his attention to the room. Christine led him into the kitchen, barely concealing her frustration. This kitchen is a masterpiece of contemporary design, she announced, gesturing broadly. Italian marble countertops, custom cabinetry, state-of-the-art appliances. It's a space meant to impress. She gave him a pointed look. The kind of place that makes people want to host important guests and show off what they have. Keanu walked over to the marble countertop, trailing his fingertips across its polished surface. It's beautiful, he said, his tone as measured as ever. But what about functionality? Do the cabinets have a soft close system? It seems like a small detail, but it makes a big difference in daily use. Christine clenched her jaw. Was he testing her? Or was he really this indifferent to the luxury she was trying so hard to highlight? As they moved back toward the master bedroom, Keanu walked to the bed, pausing to glance up at the ceiling. His gaze was analytical, his attention focused. Lighting here is interesting, he remarked. It looks like the design prioritizes natural light, but what about at night? Is the lighting system adjustable? Christine sighed audibly, no longer bothering to hide her exasperation. Of course, the lighting system is automated. That's standard in homes like this. She had no idea that her dismissive attitude was about to cost her more than just a sale. Because the man standing in front of her wasn't just another curious buyer. He was someone who could change the course of her career with a single decision. Christine forced a polite smile, though her mind raced. This had to be a joke. Had she really wasted an entire afternoon dealing with his endless questions only for him to ask for the contract? Trying to mask her disbelief, she cleared her throat. Of course, I'll call the manager now. She stepped aside, pulling out her phone. As she dialed, she stole a quick glance at Keanu, who remained as composed as ever, calmly observing the details of the grand foyer. The call connected. Yes, I have the client here, she said, her voice slightly strained. He's asking to see the contract. There was a pause on the other. Then her manager's voice came through, sharp and urgent. Christine, do you have any idea who you're speaking with? Christine frowned. Christine frowned. What? And to be honest, I don't think he's... Christine, her manager cut her off, his tone dead serious. That's Keanu Reeves. Christine felt the blood drain from her face. Her breath caught in her throat. No. You're kidding. I'm not. Christine turned slowly, her expression frozen in horror. Keanu was still standing there, hands in his pockets, waiting patiently. How could she have been so blind? Her mind replayed every dismissive comment, every passive-aggressive remark, every condescending smile she had given him. The eye rolls, the impatience, the outright suggestion that he didn't belong here. Oh, my God! A cold sweat formed at the back of her. She had just treated one of Hollywood's most respected, admired, and, most importantly, wealthy actors like an unworthy intruder. Christine swallowed hard, forcing her voice to remain steady. She hung up and turned back to Keanu, her smile now painfully forced. Mr. Reeves, he said, her tone suddenly dripping with respect. I'd be happy to arrange a meeting with our manager right away. Please, follow me. If Keanu noticed the abrupt shift in her attitude, he didn't show it. He simply nodded. As they walked through the property, Christine's heart pounded in her chest. How badly had she just ruined her career? And worse, how was she going to fix it? Christine felt like the walls were closing in on her. The weight of Keanu's words settled heavily in the room. She had spent the entire tour trying to prove her superiority, only to be humbled in the most public and humiliating way possible. Keanu turned back to the manager, his expression calm but firm. I'd like to review the contract in private, he said. Also, I'd appreciate a discussion about how this company ensures all clients receive equal treatment, regardless of their appearance or perceived status. The manager nodded quickly, eager to salvage the situation. Of course, Mr. Reeves. Let's step into my office. He shot Christine one last disapproving glance before gesturing for Keanu to follow him. As Keanu walked past Christine, he paused for just a moment. Without looking at her directly, he simply said, I hope you take something from this. Then, with the same quiet grace he had carried throughout the entire visit, he continued on. Christine stood frozen, her face burning. She barely noticed when Mark and Susan, the interns, discreetly exchanged glances before walking away, whispering to each other. The photographer packed up his equipment, shaking his head as he left. Finally, she exhaled, her breath shaky. She had always prided herself on her ability to read people, to distinguish serious buyers from time wasters, to cater to the elite while brushing off those she deemed unimportant. But today she had been completely and utterly wrong. Keanu had never raised his voice, never humiliated her outright. He didn't need to. His words, his quiet dignity, had cut deeper than any public reprimand ever could. For the first time in her career, Christine found herself questioning everything she thought she knew about success, status, and the way she treated others. And as she stood there in the middle of the lavish, multi-million-dollar house, now feeling impossibly small, she realized this was a moment she would never forget. As the door closed behind Keanu, the tension in the room slowly began to dissipate. But for Christine, the weight of the moment still pressed heavily on her shoulders. She let out a shaky breath, her fingers tightening around the glass of water she had barely touched. The manager exhaled, rubbing his temples. That could have been a disaster, he muttered. We're lucky Mr. Reeves is as gracious as he is. Christine didn't respond. Her mind was too tangled with emotions, shame, regret, and an unsettling realization that everything she had believed about her approach to her job needed to change. The interns, Mark and Susan, exchanged glances before discreetly stepping out of the room, leaving Christine alone with her thoughts. She'd always prided herself on catering to the elite, on recognizing power and influence at a glance. Yet today, she had failed, not just in her job, but as a person. She had been so blinded by her assumptions that she hadn't even seen the opportunity right in front of her. With a deep breath, she finally turned to the manager. I know I messed up, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I know I can't take it back, but I don't want this to be the way I'm remembered. The manager studied her for a long moment before nodding. Then prove it, he said simply. Christine wasn't sure how, but she knew one thing. This wasn't just about salvaging her career. It was about becoming better. As she stood there in the grand, luxurious home that now felt less like a symbol of success and more like a reminder of her own misjudgment, she realized something. Respect, true respect, wasn't just about catering to wealth and status. It was about recognizing the value in every person, no matter how they looked, what they wore, or what car they drove. And that was a lesson she would carry with her long after Keanu Reeves had walked out the door.